Welcome, 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 everyone. I am Melissa Lambert, and it's always an honor to go live with some of my amazing guests. And today, we have someone special in the building, and it's just truly an honor to be able to have Miss Sherri here because she has such a wonderful brand. But I look at her brand as ministry, and she is
Mhm.
doing something not only just for her community at large, but for the world at large, for those who are in her community. But I truly believe that this beautiful woman will be going from city to state with what God has in store for her. So I'm going to decrease because I want her to share a little bit about who is Sherri. What do you do? Tell us about your brand. Tell us about, today we have an amazing topic that we're going to talk about mental health, and I think that topic alone, mental wellness, don't let the stigma of mental wellness rob you of optimal health. That
Mhm.
happens to us on a daily basis. And I'm so thankful that you have decided to be able to just come and share on this platform. And I can't wait because every fourth Wednesday of the month, you're going to be on Women Emerge with Melliss Lanbert, and you're going to bring the information. And I truly believe that this connection was a God connection. So I'm going to let you first introduce yourself, and then we're going to talk about how did we meet, and then
Yeah.
we're going to go right into this conversation. So tell the world, who is Sherri Wick? Who are you? Let us
Yeah.
know a little bit about yourself.
So first, of course, thank you, Melissa, for this space, this opportunity, and being a contributing factor to helping us destigmatize, to remove this stigma of mental health by allowing me to be here. So I'm grateful for you. I am Sherri S. Wick. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor. What that means is I support folks in helping to really understand mental health, really understand what it means for them, and then helping them to understand how to live healthy lives. So I love what I do. I'm grateful to be able to do it. And I have a business that is Holistically Divine Counseling. And we provide, right now, we provide virtual telehealth counseling in the state of Illinois. As Melissa dropped, I will be going and reaching other states as God has called me to do. Um, I do want to share how I got into the field, and I think it helps to normalize mental health. So it was my mom that raised me. So single mom. She is the dopest woman, of course, that I know. But it was just she and I. And something that really impacted me was me observing her just go through the stressors of being Black in corporate America. And it was around 13 or 14 where it was just a moment where, of course, she's the strong Black woman. She really didn't show me, the challenges that we all face. But it was one time, one moment that's left an imprint. And, corporate just did something to her that was truly hurtful for her. And that was the first time that I saw just her sadness and her frustration. I'm thankful that she's always had this relationship with God, so that helped her through. But that was an opportunity for me to say, one, I want to support those, so other individuals that are going through various challenges and trials, and even if it's something like stress management, just anything that would help you to live, but help you to also know how important you are. And that's one of those imprints. That's a story that has always stayed with me and has always motivated me to stay in the mental health field, to advocate, to promote wellness, mental wellness, mind body connection. And my mom would also say, since I was the only child, I was always in grown folks' business. But it was more so about the listening to people and really being in tuned and connected with them. So that's just a little bit. I'm definitely a compassionate individual, always leaning in for that extra thing that someone hasn't said, but maybe their body and their body language has said. But I love the mental health field, and I believe we all deserve to have these resources, and we all deserve to live a healthy and holistic life. So that's a
Wow.
little bit about me, even though it was a long, long
No, it was
about me.
perfect. And I love your background. I love how, sometimes we don't realize how our story, our trauma, our life, I'm a single mom. And to hear your
Mhm.
story share how you watched your mom. I can just
Yeah,
imagine my 12-year-old watching me go through this journey. And look how your outcome, you said, you know what? I'm going to enter into a field where I will serve. So
that's
you
right.
you
Right.
literally came up looking at a woman who served you
Yeah.
her entire life, right?
Yeah.
And was
Yeah.
able to make sure you lack nothing. And
Yeah.
then you decided, something doesn't sit right with me on how my mom was treated in the corporate world and how it took a toll on her mental being. So I'm going to now initiate this and learn more about this. Get my degree, get my master's, open up my own practice, and
Yeah.
begin to not only do that, but you're also a facilitator. So tell us more
Yeah.
about just even what you do on the daily basis. You also
Yeah.
facilitate in this arena
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Melissa. One of the things that I learned is from my seat, I'm working one on one with people, and that's wonderful because what I love is that I love that if I'm working with you one on one, then I know that you're telling your friends or your family, and there's this beautiful domino effect. I appreciate that. What I recognized is God invited me to reach more. And so reaching more looked like, well, let me begin doing some workshops, or maybe running some groups so we have more people coming together. And then it began, okay, why don't I reach out to organizations, corporate organizations, right? That would make sense, knowing what my mom has gone through in the past, and also knowing that most places can be stressful. So facilitation looks like someone saying, hey, Sherri, we value the work that you do, the presentations that I've highlighted. I really like to speak from a positive psychology or a encouraging approach when it comes to mental health. I like to use terminology that most people will understand, so that you don't have to feel like language is going over your head. A lot of mindset, mental fortitude, how to sustain during challenging times. And so when companies bring me in, when organizations bring me in, we're facilitating a conversation, really, really, really inviting folks to share, making sure the space is safe, making sure that we all know that everybody has a story, but not everybody has had the opportunity to share it, and that we learn from each other. So, most recently did a topic working with women entrepreneurs. And so helping them to understand self-care and how important it is to our soul as we're taking care of ourselves, our soul. But really that's looking like an hour and a half or 2 hours, if I'm lucky, to be with a group of people to say, hey, self-care, do you know about it? Do you know how important it is? What are the ways that we can integrate self-care into your life and that it be consistent? What are the ways that we can integrate stress management tools and resources and be consistent? We know that when we're consistent, things change for us, right? Things change for our mind, our body, our behaviors, and then how we experience stress or chaos. So that's an example, but I love facilitating workshops because I know I'm reaching more people, and you get this interaction and other people are chiming in, and and what's profound is then you get to hear, oh my gosh, we all share
Mhm.
similar stories,
That's
and
right.
there's not this divide. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about being able to facilitate. It's like, oh, you know what, Melissa, you're not alone.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Oftentimes we think we're alone, but we're not. We're
We're
not.
not. And I love that. I love this story. So one of the things that I truly believe that we need to talk about is mental health. And before we do that, again, thank you all for watching, tuning in on live on Facebook as well as YouTube. I am your host, Melliss Lanbert, and it's always an honor to have someone as beautiful and, inside and out, and Sherri is truly serving her God-given purpose each and every day within her community, within her company, and even in her home. So today we're going to have this great topic around wellness, about mental wellness. And I want to tell people about how we met, because sometimes people be like, Melissa, where do you be meeting these people? Not realizing that I always believe, Sherri, that we have our own destiny helpers
Yeah.
along the journey, and our destiny helpers locate us in so many ways. And sometimes we don't know who is praying for you to come forth. You're
Mm-hmm.
in Texas, I'm here in Florida. We haven't face to face met, but we connected the first
Yes, we
time
do.
on the phone call. So I
Yes,
want you to explain to the listeners,
I
how
sure
did
will.
you meet Melissa Lambert?
Okay, here we go. Hold on.
Here we go.
So I something that my husband shared with me is to reach more people. And of course, sure, this is something I was supposed to know, of course, but I needed my husband to tell me so that then I'm listening intently, and then to do what comes after this. So he tells me, hey, maybe begin reaching out and finding podcasts that are really reaching communities and get yourself out there. Okay, well, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I am sleeping. I'm awakened in the middle of the night. For those out there know how God wakes you up in the morning time when everybody else is asleep. That was my experience. I woke up. God, what is it that you need to talk to me about, or what is it that I need to listen to?
Mhm.
And so I end up on Facebook, just scrolling, and immediately there's the women's entrepreneur group on Facebook that I'm a part of, not active in. And someone said, building a podcast list, wanting to know those who welcome guests.
Mm.
Okay, Lord, thank you. And I go through, and Melissa has her podcast listed there, but then she gives the details of who she's looking for and the purpose and the goal, and I was drawn to it. I did not reach out right away, because I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? This is exciting. How aligned is this? Okay, so I pray over it, and then just later on that day, Holy Spirit's like, you need to respond.
Mhm.
So I respond to Melissa. She responds right away. We set up a call, and the call, I thought, and I didn't, of course, know what to expect, but I thought it was just more so going to be like, who are you, lady? What are you talking about? I'm protective of my space, right? Right. And then it was, who are you? But then it was, oh my gosh, I value what you want to share and the community that I have and that I've built. She knows her community. Melissa knows her community, and she knows what they're looking for. And so there continued to be this connection even more. And then she did what she's blessed with doing, and she ended up like just seeing more, truly seeing more, and inviting me into this space. And one of the things that I continue to reflect on is this idea of taking risks. When we believe in God, it is almost a mandate in a way. If we're going to believe in him, we also have to mandate ourselves to take risks, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here. But before that, I wouldn't have met Melissa and all that she brings to spaces like this and to her community. So we have to take risks, even
Wow.
even in our discomfort, right?
Mhm.
A stranger in
Yeah.
Florida,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
this wasn't, I want to say for the listeners, this was not a FaceTime or a Zoom. This was a old
Phone
school
call.
telephone call.
But it's so crazy though, Sherri. When we first had a conversation, it was canceled. The first call, I was feeding the homeless, and
That's
I was
right.
so yes. So it was so much going on that day, and I canceled. And the Spirit of God said, "No, you need to call her now." And I said, "But," he said, "Call her now." And I said, "Okay." So I texted. I was like, "Are you available?" She said,
Yeah.
"Yeah." And I would drop
Yeah.
my daughter off the church, and I
That's
sat
right.
in the parking lot. And normally, whenever I do a discovery session with a client, I kind of discover them for about, it doesn't take me but 20 minutes to discover if we're a good fit or not. Because again, I always say we get to choose who we work with. Not everybody is, and for me personally, because of the gift that I carry, I can't really have everybody attached to me because I see too much, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I sat in the parking lot and I began to speak, it was like the Spirit of God just took over and shifted the conversation. And I'm like, why am I going into the prophetic right now, God? Mentally, I'm telling myself that, but I had to do what
Mhm.
God had asked me to do. And this lady I'm like, Lord, I haven't even warm up to her yet. Why am I going in? And it was such a profound moment. And
Yeah.
it was like you are one vessel that is open to receive. And as you all listen, even today, I want you to understand God will use every and anybody if they
Yeah.
are open. They're a willing vessel. Willing, hear me, willing vessel, right? So I'm a
Yeah.
willing vessel, but the person on the other end have to be a receiving vessel,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm the willing vessel to release what the Lord has shared for Sherri to receive, guess what? She also had to be on the other side to receive what was given to her. And so walk us even in that moment. How were you? Remind you the first conversation we had, and I'm prophetically moving. This lady,
Absolutely.
you don't know this, you don't know me on from the other end. We didn't even really kind of had a full blown hour conversation before.
No.
So like even that, because I appreciate when I see people are so ready to receive from God. Because you
Mm-hmm.
find people questioning where the, yeah, and please don't get me wrong, please, you got to be mindful of the people that speak into you, because not everybody that's
Absolutely.
say God is truly
Yes.
hearing from God.
Yes.
Please be mindful. Don't think I'm telling you let everybody speak into you. That's
No,
not
please
what I'm
don't.
saying. So
Mm-mm.
how you're such a receptive soul,
Mm-hmm.
where not only did we move from us talking about the podcast, we moved from you doing a mind mapping session. And
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
this mind mapping session, I mean, 6 or 7 pages later,
Yeah.
it's like God just took something and blew it up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
walk us through even that experience from the conversation from the parking
Mm-hmm.
lot, to us even doing a mind mapping session.
And Melissa, that it connects to that mental health piece. We so something that I have as a clinician, I got to make sure I'm doing what I'm asking my clients to do, or what I'm facilitating groups to do. And what I recognized is I because I was trusting myself, I was trusting God, of course, but so I'm going to trust God, but then I have to trust myself. People always think that it's just this automatic thing. No, we have to trust ourselves because we've let ourselves down. And so I know, okay, well, this is God led. So I'm safe. He's got me. I know that. Now I have to talk to myself. And this is that mental health part. This is that mindset. Okay, you're safe. You're in your own home. This is a conversation. So I had to do that before getting on the call. And we can
Mm,
do that for everyone. Anytime you're getting on a call, anytime you're about to meet someone for the first time or the 17th time, having
mm,
that conversation with ourselves to calm and regulate our
mm,
emotions, our
mm,
mind, because we're nervous, right?
mhm,
Naturally, I was nervous. Oh my gosh, who is she? What is she gonna ask me? But I felt safe. And
mm,
then you began, when you started pouring in, see, when you begin using language that no one else would know,
mm,
that you use words that were just words that were with God and I.
mm,
That confirmed, that made me feel even more grounded. So when I
mm,
talk about the word grounded, I do mean that you feel more planted, you feel
mm,
more rooted. you can even picture, oh, I'm putting my feet on the ground to make my body feel more stable, right? That's a exercise we all can do when this is something that's different or unknown for us, or that causes us to be nervous. But I was listening to the language that you were using, and that's interesting, Lord. Now only you know that, but okay, like you're really pouring into her so that she can pour into me. So it was a lot of like, what do I need to do before getting ready for this call? But then also in the call, rooting myself and rooting myself in the floor, feeling safe, but feeling encouraged. You encouraged, you motivated, you brought out additional ideas. It just was very supportive, just for the first call.
Yeah.
It
I
was
mean,
just a call.
it's amazing how things can align when it's time. Sometime,
Absolutely.
yesterday I had another live just like this with Apostle Sonia L. Thompson, and we went from the book of John, and we were talking about Lazarus, and I never saw Lazarus in this space where she brought Lazarus yesterday, and she talked about
Yeah.
when Lazarus was called forth from out of the tomb, right? And at the moment when she said that, she said, you know what? He had a choice. Lazarus had a choice to either stay dead or actually
Mm-hmm.
be to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
follow the command of Jesus and come forth, right? So he had a choice to stay dead or come forth, right? But he decided to do
Yep.
what? Come forth,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So in life, we have to remember on this journey called life, we have the decision to make to either stay where we are or do what?
Yes.
Come forth.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful that you decided to listen to your
Mm-hmm.
husband, the man over your God is
Yep.
the head of
Yep.
your head over you and your husband, but he's the head of the household. And he said, Sherry, I think you need to expand. How do
Yep.
you expand? Get on some podcast. So he had that internal, that in-person
Yep.
conversation while you and God had the internal conversation through prayer and fasting and dedication. And God said,
Come
you know what?
forth.
There is a girl over there in Florida that's going to share some stuff that once you begin to have that conversation, you
Yeah.
will come forth. And it was that boldness of you following and leading, allowing God to lead and direct you where you literally came forth. So today, now we're really like, I want to kind of dig deeper because you mentioned the word stigma. Because there is, Sherry, there's a stigma around mental health, wellness.
Yes.
There's a stigma when people talk about counseling, therapy,
Yeah.
talking to someone about your problem or the word trauma. So
Ah,
today we're talking about
there
mental
is.
wellness, the stigma of
Yeah.
mental wellness.
Yes.
Don't You said something, don't allow the
Yep.
stigma of mental wellness to rob
Yeah.
you of
Yeah.
optimal healing. So talk to us about why do you feel that there's a
Yeah.
stigma
Yeah.
around mental wellness?
Yep.
So tell us now, what is the stigma do you feel that's around mental wellness?
So Rob. Yeah.
No, I'm asking, I want you to tell us now. Can you hear me okay? Sherry, can you hear me?
That is such a big question.
You're breaking up. Can you hear me, Sherry? Okay.
Yeah.
Sherry, can you hear me?
I would say, Melissa, I can.
Okay.
It's a little. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Perfect. Yes.
Can you hear me, Melissa?
Yes, ma'am. I can. I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I want you to tell the audience because what happened is
Yes.
it's a big
Yeah.
stigma
Yeah.
around mental wellness. So go ahead.
Yeah. So it of course goes back to history, and especially communities of color. It goes back to the way in which we have been treated, and this idea that uh, where people are crazy and we're not using that language, but it really truly goes back to history. And the reason why I'm lumping it into that is uh, I am encouraging folks to move forward, right? So because of oppression, because of racism, because of the injustices, mental health was to not be talked about because we don't want any harm to come to us and our families. But then also in the families, you don't talk about anything. You stay within your family, which all of that was based out of safety, protecting communities of color. Okay. What is It's always important to know history, but we don't have to bring that into our present because we know that everybody is impacted in their mind, in their body. We know that the amount of stress that we endure on a day to day impacts our mind. And I want to break down what does it mean to impact our mind. So, for those out there, if you've ever had thoughts that were pretty fast paced, that's the mind. If you ever had thoughts that were, dis- discouraging thoughts that came up, like, oh, I can't do this, or my fear is setting in. Am I enough? Or, I'm worried about, hey, I'm worried about finances, as we all are. That's the mind. That is our mental health. And so we all experience it. Let's normalize. We all have generational trauma. We all have intergenerational trauma. And trauma is how you perceive it. It's something that you have to live with, and however it shows up. So not everybody's trauma is the same. And it's important for me to say that. And it's also important for me to say, I can't tell you that that's trauma. So in my therapy sessions, I'm exploring. I'm curious, and so when people are in these workshops or when people are working with me one on one, we're arriving to some of these reflections are, my goodness, my mental health. I'm cloudy or foggy in my mind. I'm constantly dysregulated meaning really I cannot calm myself down. My body is always in fight or flight. I mean, I hope those that are listening, you can relate to this. That's all mental health. And so what I want people to understand is when you reach out to people that are professionally certified or have their license, has gone to school, we are truly here to support your well-being. Now, when you're finding someone to support you, it is like shopping around. You're trying to figure out what fits. It's almost like this idea of, I got to figure out what clothing attire fits me that allows me this comfort and security and safety. But mental wellness is really it impacts the mind, it impacts the body, and what I utilize as a foundation is the 8 dimensions of wellness. I'll say it again, the 8 dimensions of wellness. So it is everything that's social wellness. How often are you engaged with your social community? Is your community stressful or stressless? Intellectual wellness. How are you stimulating your mind? What are you inputting in your mind? What are you reading? What are you listening to? How do you have this connection with words and information? We all know knowledge is power. There's occupational wellness. What's going on with your job, right? In the US, the first thing we ask people is, what do you do for a living? And so for people who are not working, that feels so uncomfortable, right? That oftentimes makes us feel like we aren't doing enough. People who are working, they're stressed, overwhelmed. So what's going on, at your job? Do you need more tools and resources to navigate day to day, right? Financial wellness. We know debt. We know how much everything costs. So that's all a part of the mental wellness. We talk about mental emotional, of course. Do we have do we have what we need with our mind? Do we feel like we are constantly in a loop on a hamster wheel? We can't get off with our mind. Are we able to make decisions that we trust? That's all in our mind. And then, of course, as we learn more about trauma, we know that that also impacts the body. So then there's physical wellness, nutritional wellness, right? Physical wellness is our movement. We know there's a really great book out there. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. We know that when we experience various events that impact us mentally, emotionally, we store it. Our body stores it. Our body and our mind are powerful things. God has blessed us with, some really powerful things, of course. Our body stores it. Okay. Then there is environmental wellness. Now, this theory is based in a woman that worked with substance use, but I really like it, and I believe it needs to be accessible for all. So, environmental wellness. I use it as the home in which you keep. You have an organized space, your mind is organized. You have a disorganized space, your mind is often disorganized. For those that are listening, have you ever had maybe a pile of papers on your desk, kind of all over the place, or basket full of laundry that's out, and you fold it up and you feel, okay, you feel relaxed, you feel organized. And I'm looking on the screen to see. So I said financial, occupational, environmental, social, mental/emotional. I said environmental. I said occupational, and my brain is pausing. Where I said physical/nutritional, and I saved the best for last. Spiritual wellness. How are you connected? So for me, spiritual wellness is how am I connected with God? And for all of these, all 8 dimensions, what is your relationship with those things? So a personal story is at the top of this year, I said, I need to check in with my body. I need to figure out why I'm actually experiencing physiological anxiety. I'm actually experiencing in the body rapid heart rate. My thoughts were not as rapid, but the physiological. So palpitations, I would get hot. I would feel overwhelmed. I did an inventory, and it was actually because of how long I had been drinking coffee. So that's my physical wellness. So I stopped because I didn't enjoy what was going on in my body, right? Now, for those that know how coffee works, right, you get a bit favored or addicted to it. And so I had to go through this releasing of it so that my body can be restored and go back to this optimal health, this how it needs to operate and how it has been operating prior to the long stint of coffee. So that's an example. I recognized in my mind something was going on in my body. I reflected, and then I said, wow, I need to do something because I'm not enjoying the way it's making me feel. And so I had to have a mindset of consistency, but also prioritizing. I needed to prioritize my own well-being. So that's like a example. And I know, Melissa, I gave a lot, but this is the example of destigmatizing. We are not just talking about someone being out of their mind. I am talking about everyday human beings, us all, that are impacted by life. And we're impacted by life. Of course, it's going to impact us in our mind, stress, worry, fear, and in our body. So I want people to understand it is okay. Now, I also need to say this. Not every place is safe.
Nope.
Not every place is safe. And so really doing the work to talk amongst your community where you feel safe, to ask questions like, hey, what do you do for wellness? What do you do for emotional wellness? What do you do for mental wellness? So
I love it. I mean, I really
that was a
never knew
lot.
that it wasn't a lot. It was what was
I had a
needed.
lot to share.
It was just what was needed because again, many of us don't really understand that wellness means more than just physical. So understanding that there
Say
is
that one more
8
time, Melissa.
Can you hear me okay? Let me just make sure. Can you hear me okay? I don't know why. I don't just want to make sure. Can you hear me? Sherri, can you hear me okay?
Now I can.
Okay. All right. I don't know why it's going up. My apologies. But I was saying that the 8 dimensions of wellness is so powerful. As
Yes.
you mentioned, emotional wellness as number one. Then you said environmental wellness for number two, financial wellness, number
Yes.
three, um, intellectual wellness, number four, occupational wellness, number
Yes.
five, physical wellness, number six, social wellness, number seven, and the best of all for me is spiritual wellness. And I love that you gave us the dimension of wellness for us, and understanding that all 8 dimension makes us whole, makes us one being. So thank you for sharing that, because I truly believe this now give us the power to understand that we're not just a person just in itself, just a body. We are mind, spirit, and soul. We are all we're come in this one specific temple, and we need to take care of everything. So wellness is not just physical wellness. When's wellness is all these 8 dimensions that makes us actually whole. So I want to ask another question, because I really want to kind of dive into something.
Yeah.
Because one of the questions I have is, how can the stigma surrounding mental wellness prevent individuals from seeking the help they need? Because you find people, Sherri, that the stigma of the fact that mom and dad said, don't be bringing our business in the streets. That's a stigma of people feeling that I shouldn't talk to strangers, meaning counselors. I shouldn't talk to nobody about my business. Right. So that's the stigma in itself, but it also prevent that person from healing. So how can the stigma surrounding mental wellness prevent individuals from seeking the help they need? Can you share a little bit about that? I think I'm going in and out. I think is it there a delay on your side, Sherri? I think it's a delay on her side. I don't know if you can hear. Let me just make sure that's Sherri. Can you hear me? Okay. No, is it okay, let me see something. I gotta put on my headset then.
So the question is, how can the stigma um, prevent us from accessing the
Let me just put on my
you? I
can you
can. It's going in and out just a little bit,
okay.
but
Can you hear me, Sherri? No, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? No? You can keep on talking, Sherri. You can keep on talking.
I hope
Okay.
that those that are out there are taking notes and have written some things down.
I don't know why. You can I don't know why I can't hear you. Okay.
I can. It's a little. It
I'm
sounds
trying.
better. That
Okay,
sounds
so you
better.
keep on going. You keep on talking. Share.
Sounds better.
I'm going to. You keep on talking. I'm going to put you on. So
The question. I hope I'm answering the question. How does the stigma prevent us? I hope that's the question. But I'm gonna share. We're gonna keep going. When we the stigma that's out there, because uh, since there's this stigma, we are not talking with each other. We often feel like somebody's going to judge me, somebody's going to reject me, somebody's not going to understand. So the stigma that's out there creates narratives. It creates narratives that say, well, you know what? I'm not going to talk to Melissa about mental health because, well, you know, my family taught me to keep things in the home, which again, at one point in time, that was so important, so crucial. The invitation is to move past the stigma and say, hey, there's something that I need. And sometimes we don't even know that we need it. But when other people are conversing and sharing stories, it is likely that something regarding stress or family dynamics or really anything is going to come up. And so that is the opportunity to talk about how that could potentially impact your mental health. Family can be stressful. So talking about, well, how are you taking care of yourself? So really not allowing the stigma of mental health, because it's evolving and it's changing, and we're recognizing so much that uh, stress alone can impact our mental health, right? Stress alone oftentimes impacts our mental health, impacts our mind. We think about what it means to live an optimal life, a healthy and holistic life. It means to touch on all of those 8 dimensions and ask myself, what is my relationship with my finances? Because that impacts your mind, right? We don't want to feel judged. We don't want to feel like we do not have funds, all those things. But talking with other people about what is their relationship with finances, right? And how they move through it. Nutrition, I gave you all a personal story for me. Physical wellness, being able to say, what's my relationship with food? How do I see food? Right? Do I see food as comforting? That's impacting your mind, that you go to something external like food for comfort when we can find other ways of comfort and safety. So that food is just about eating to live and not living to eat, right? So really helping people understand that yes, there's a stigma out there. No, you do not have to operate in that stigma. I believe that stigma is there to suppress people from living healthy
So
lives. I
true.
really do. I believe that when we begin to ask more questions in safe spaces, and
Mhm.
somebody might be thinking, well, how do I know this safe is fake? How do I know this space is safe? Well, we got to
Mhm.
first listen to our body. Our
True.
body will tell us right away if it doesn't feel safe.
True.
And so that's the first thing, listening to the body. But I have to have somewhat of a connection with the body too,
That
right? I
part.
have to I
Yeah.
have to know, oh wow, you know what? When I get nervous, my body shakes, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
we have to have this intunement, this alignment with
That
ourselves
part.
first. And then we have to listen. Well, how are people talking in this space? Are they educational? Are they informative? Are they welcoming and inviting? Because that helps
Mhm.
us feel safe.
Mhm.
So once we can work on understanding mental health, mental wellness, that it's not just, you know, the first thought that many people thought about was maybe was, oh, you're going to analyze me. That's what I would always hear,
Mhm.
Melissa. I would always hear, oh, you're going to put me on the couch and analyze me, psychoanalyze
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
That's not what we're talking about.
No.
And
No.
so really helping people to understand that mental health, mental wellness is far beyond
Wow.
uh, just just talking about the problems.
That
That's it's
part.
not it's not just talking about the problems. It's talking about how your body responds, what your body needs, what your mind needs. And then we go into, you know, what kind of life do you want to live? What kind of
Yes.
relationships do you want to have
Yes.
with yourself,
Yes.
loving
Yes.
yourself and being
Mhm.
kind to yourself and
Uh-huh.
being thoughtful to yourself and encouraging yourself. That's all mental health, you all.
So
That's
true.
mental wellness right there.
Yeah. That's amazing that you even say that. And I believe that one of the things that we forget in the process of just going through life is understanding the power of mental health. And I
Oh
remember,
yeah.
just to give you a story, just I remember my first, when I had a really bad breakdown, like a meltdown. It was the after my late son. I didn't take my two other miscarriages. I had two back to back miscarriages. I never dealt with it, so I just brushed it off, went to work. never dealt with it. So the third child, which was my son, my late son, Caleb, he was stillborn. And I did the same thing that I did with the first two, brush it off like nothing, until one day it just felt like I was putting sand or throwing dirt all on top of something, right? Till one day I had a massive meltdown where I was driving, Sherri, and I didn't even know where I was going. I didn't know I didn't know where I was going. I didn't remember where I lived. I just was like, I had to pull the car over, and I was shaking, and I was just like, where am I? Where am I? And I'm by myself in this car. And I was just like, I felt like I lost myself. And that it went on for like 2 weeks. And every day I drove for the 2 weeks, I would say, I'm going to Tanisha's house. I would have to repeat out loud where I'm going, because I really felt like I didn't deal with the trauma. So at that moment, my body internalized the trauma for so long that it had no other way escaping but to, in my mind, I felt I was going mad. So we have to learn in this season in our life that we must deal with things. We can't just brush it off anymore. We can't just say, you know what, it never happened. We can't just ignore it. So as we wrap up today, I want you to even touch on that, because I see you shaking your head like, yes. So I just want you to even touch on stuff like that, Sherri, because again, I believe that many of us go through things, but we bury it along the way. So I just so as we close it, I think our signals are coming in and out. I think you're hearing me after I say the statement.
That
I can't hear you. Go ahead. Keep on going. I can't hear you.
I just wanted to say, Melissa, to that, we bury, we stuff, we suppress. So the image that I want people to think about is, you take everything that has happened to you. And remember, you all, whatever time you wake up in the morning to whatever time you go to sleep, things are happening. And your body is experiencing it, and your mind and your emotions are experiencing it. Our bodies we are intuitive. We are ever evolving. But take all of that, every big situation, every small situation, and picture this, stuff it in your closet. Stuff it in your closet. That's what what will happen if it gets too much? The closet's going to burst open. That's what happens when we stuff, when we suppress. And so the goal is, and it's a slow practice. It's a slow practice, but the goal is just once every few weeks, maybe just for those that are just starting out, once every few weeks, just sit down and kind of reflect on the last few weeks. What were some wins? What were some losses? What were some things that brought sadness? What were some things that brought joy? I always like to ask folks, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? Because we know if we end in gratitude, we know that then supports us for our next day. And that, again, that's for those that are on the call, and they're just wanting some resources, just really thinking about that reflection. Not every day yet, but gradually being able to get there. And for those that are already practicing mental health and all those various areas, doing that daily reflection, doing that daily gratitude, and asking yourself, what do I need? And then sharing what you need. And this is yourself. This is an internal dialogue. Hey, guess what, everybody? You're always having an internal dialogue. And unfortunately, most of the time, it's more negative towards ourselves than it is positive or healthy. And so we have to slowly begin to change that internal dialogue so that we're offering more kindness and more grace to ourselves, and being mindful of the way we speak. But I know, I'm gonna pause there. I'm gonna stop there, because I hope folks will come back and listen to the podcast towards the end of this month. So.
Absolutely. So I'm excited about the end of this month, because I know that there is such an amazing conversation is going to come forth from it. And that is on the
Yep.
it's going to be the last Wednesday of this month of June, of July, which is going to be the 31st. Wait, the last, do
Last.
we have wait, we have five
Yes, we do.
Wednesdays. Oh
We
my
do.
gosh. So it's the 24th. So it's the 24th, y'all. Please tune in because
Yes.
you're going to hear from Sherri, and she's going to dig deeper into that entire every fourth Wednesday of the month. She's coming in to talk about mental wellness.
Yep.
Somebody got to talk about it, and why
Somebody.
not let it be her?
Mhm.
And I truly believe that you're going to really open up us to a world where it's been shut for a while for many of us. You know,
Yes.
it took me to lose my late son for me to go to get help that I needed.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
even it was today, I'm the same group. There's a group that is on Facebook that, when I lost my son, they were there. They're the one that paid for my 12 weeks grief counseling. They're the one
Wow.
that for the first 90 days, they had a cleaning crew come to clean my house. They gave me, it was like there was such a support. That's the Finley Project, led by
Mhm. Mhm.
Noel. And today, out of nowhere, they said, "Oh, we're having an online support group for something." I won't share what it is, and I'm like, "I'm signing up."
Right.
I'm not afraid to get the help that I need mentally.
Yeah.
In this group, I feel safe because we all went through the same
Yeah.
loss of losing a
Yeah.
child, and I feel safe to share certain things. And do I have the debris still of my late son? Yes, because I'm like, yeah, I feel like I lost my baby, but I also wanted him, right? So it's just like certain
Right.
things, I feel like I haven't dealt with everything. So
Sure.
I share this personal story because I want people to remember that there's always debris. Even
Oh,
though you have forgiven, you're
yeah.
forgotten, you feel like you heal, you will
Yeah.
find a way where the enemy will sneak up, Sherri, and make you feel like, okay, so you 43, you not even married again. You
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah.
your clock's a tick. So he start playing with your mind, and that debris start like kind of
Coming.
coming up,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So in that process, that's why I really want people to tune into your session, your episode every fourth Wednesday of the month on womanemergeradio.com, because I truly believe healing will begin. Yes, you
Mhm.
do need to still find a therapist in your city, in your state,
Mhm. Mhm.
we're in the process. And I know that Sherri over time will be sharing more about her firm, what she does, and how you can benefit from that as well. So
Yeah.
tell us before we go, Sherri, and I'm going to put back your website here. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about how can you help someone that's in your own state? And I
Yeah.
know where your other firm, where your other business is located. Tell us how we can find you and connect with you. And I see that your website is also going across the screen. So
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
us a
Thank
little bit
you.
about you.
Yeah, I think the first, because this is the goal is that this is a lifetime journey. I want to say first, when the fourth Wednesday, I'm going to make sure I have different websites for folks to access, just little by little. This is not to overwhelm anyone. This is just the first, just introduce and ask, hey, am I going to do something for myself? That's the first thing. I think that's so important, that you're not going to jump right in. It
Mhm.
still requires you to be vulnerable. So I think the first is follow us on Holistically Divine org on Instagram. Let's start there. Let's follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Holistically Divine org. And then for those that are in the state of Illinois, if you are looking for a clinician, I have a beautiful and amazing team. God has blessed me with a beautiful, amazing team. We are accepting clients, and so it is virtual. And so you would just go to Holistically Divine Counseling, and our website right there .org, and you're able to just check out our page. And for those that aren't in the state of Illinois, you're in other states, begin Googling, if it's grief, Melissa, I'm grateful that you shared your story. Grief, we are all impacted by grief and loss. It impacts us, not just losing humans in our life whom we love, It's losing things. It's losing our independence. It's losing, I mean, we grieved with COVID, right? So if you know that you need a support group, just start Googling and researching, support group for, a parent that you've lost, or a grief group for whatever it is that you're going through. I have my own page, which on Instagram, which is SSW. Oh, look at me, WK22 at Instagram, or yeah, for Instagram. But really, I would encourage folks to follow the Holistically Divine Counseling page on Instagram, because there's a lot of just content out there to add to your toolbox to keep those keep you connected with information. And then for those that want to connect, definitely follow me on LinkedIn, and that's just my full name, Sherri S. Wick.
All right. Now I'm trying to get your email so people can also have your email listed. So I
Oh,
have
thank
Sherri
you.
at holistic divine .org. So in
Yeah,
case you want
thank
to
you.
connect, you're welcome. So
Yep.
let me just make sure I get them also back your website.
Oh yes, and that one's a great one because I think it gives the my website, Sherri S. Wick, gives you my story. I do believe in, and I also want to say there are different forms of therapy. It's not just talk therapy. There's art therapy. There's so many forms. So there's something out there for everyone. But what I believe is important to share is when you're doing your research and you're reading people's websites, do you feel connected? As you're just reading, right? You haven't even met the person yet, but there is something that draws you, right? That's what Melissa and I were just talking about at the beginning. There are things that she said that drew me in to be more even connected with her. And so, as you all are searching, as you all are looking, check out people's websites to see if they're using language that is like, oh my gosh, I need more information about that, or I am struggling with that, or I'm hoping to have more information, from
Wow.
for that. So
We have really, dived into a
we
lot
did.
today. And I know that technically we had some little technical difficulties, but I truly believe there was so much information that was shared on today. You are a ball of information. And I'm just
Yeah,
so honored. Thank you so much.
thank
Thank
you.
you for allowing me to serve you truly on purpose, Sherri. And I truly believe that we are connected for such a time as this. I also believe that things happen when it's supposed to happen. It wasn't then, it was just now, and I believe that we are a part of each other's journey. So
Absolutely.
I so appreciate you, your ministry, all that you bring to the table, how you're going to impact the people from your city, people from your state, people
Yeah.
from other states, and even people that we're going to touch globally. So
Yeah.
thank you again for all that you do. Any last statement
Thank
before we
you.
close it in?
Actually, yes. Everyone that's listening, you are so much more important than you realize. I like to say that to folks to help them understand how important you are. God created you, and let's start getting you together in mind, body, soul, and spirit. So I hope you all hang out with us on the 24th of July. Thank you,
Yes,
Melissa.
and yes, you're so welcome. So, again, everyone, you are tuned into Live with Melliss Lanbert. And Sherri, you are just a jewel to the kingdom. And we so appreciate you serving just the ministry of wellness, of mental wellness. And I say it is a ministry because it's forgotten. It's a forgotten ministry, not
Yeah.
realizing the importance. You talked about the 8 dimension of wellness, and that truly alone in itself needs to be owned in on. And I pray that every listener that listens to us live, those who will watch it, the replay, you will tune in on July 24th at 6 p.m. At 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It goes live on the radio, womanemergeradio.com. It's featured in 172 countries and you will find us on all 12 top podcasts. Just put in Women Emerge with Melliss Lanbert, and you will find find Sherri. She is a jewel to the kingdom, and I'm just honored to be able to be a part of her journey and to see her blossom and help so many people. So until next time, everybody, we're about to tune
Bye,
out.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.